The Dreaded Gom-boo, or the impossible 3-day thumb and finger problem. An essay by my teacher Adidal Samraj, September the 9th, 1982. It's his humorous take on the disease of mankind, the self-contraction, ego. Have you all heard about the dreaded Gom-boo, or the impossible 3-day thumb and finger problem? Aha, you see, nobody tells you about these things except me. A myth has been circulating for many centuries now that mankind is diseased, that all beings are suffering from what I call the dreaded Gom-boo, also called sin, Maya, ego, suffering, separated individuality, illusion, delusion, confusion, and indifference. We are all supposed to accept this diagnosis, realize how diseased we are, and submit ourselves to the local religious hospital, where a father or mother doctor will confirm our disease and require us to submit for the rest of our lives to various regimes for our own healing and ultimate cure. This is the basic proposition of traditional religion, and it begins with the diagnosis of the dreaded disease. Tradition has it that we are all by birth, by virtue of our very existence, even now, diseased, sinful, separated from the Great One. What a horror! Yes, what an obscenity has been laid upon us through the traditions of society, which, merely because of the impulse to survive as the body-mind, have for centuries required human beings to invest themselves with a belief in this disease and to suppress their own life motion, which comes only from the Great One, in order to fulfill the presumed needs of our chaotic society. I come to tell you, as I stand in the midst of the priests of this horror, that not even one of you is suffering from this disease. It is an imaginary disease, a terrible disease, but altogether imaginary. No one has ever actually had this disease, but altogether, not one single being has ever had the dreaded Gom-boo, or the impossible 3-day thumb and finger problem. It has never happened. It does not exist. So what is the truth? The truth is we are happy. We live in God. The Great One is our very being. We inhere in the blissful, forceful being of the starry God, the wonder, the mystery, the person of love. This is our situation and our destiny. I am only one among many voices, but this is my message to you. There is no disease. There is nothing to cure. We are not patients and we are not parented. We are not children. No dreadful destiny lies before us. There is nothing whatsoever to cure. However, in spite of these truths, we all act like patients or diseased persons and seem to deny or doubt the very condition, with a capital C, of your existence. Therefore, I must remind you, I must call you to observe yourselves and to see how the conception of this disease arises. Where does it come from? How do you contract this imaginary disease and become involved in seeking its imaginary cure? I call you to observe yourself, and you will see, you're grabbing your ass, you're pinching your belly, you're ripping your hairs out, you're biting your tongue, you're pulling out your teeth, you're sticking your fingers in your eyes, you're causing yourself great pain because of your motive to be independent. You will never be independent. There is not even a molecule of wood in this wall that is independent. Nothing and no one is independent. All of us in here in the Great One, the wonderful Lord, the marvellous starry person, the delight of being, all of us live in that. That is our situation now. This moment is the moment of happiness, as is every future moment, every moment after death, beyond this world and other worlds, lower worlds, higher worlds, after worlds, no worlds. It is all the moment of infinite delight, unless we become self-conscious and withdraw from our relations and contract upon our happiness and forget it. This is my message to you. There is no disease except the one you fabricate and reinforce through all the propagandas of this horrible world of egos. Understand it and instantly be free of your disease in every moment. Be free of this imaginary concoction of suffering. There isn't any such thing. The Great One has magnified itself in the form of sexual beings, human beings, sexless beings, earth, world, form and fruit and wood and wall and space and star and sky and cloud and tree and life and death. The same Great One takes all these forms, completely indifferent, completely free, completely happy in all these excesses. This is all the Great One. The Great One creates nothing. The Great One is everything. What a paradox. What a mystery. What a wonderful God. This is my message to you. How wonderful is this obscene, absurd, ridiculous, paradoxical being that we are. This is what I call, this is what I tell you, and it relieves you of the conceit of your suffering and disease, the belief in your unhappiness. It relieves you of your willingness to submit yourself to being a patient for the rest of your days. None of us are patients. None of us require a cure. None of us have parents anymore, except perhaps as our friends. All of us stand free in the Great One, the living God, the one who has inspired all the poor fools like me for centuries, the same delicious, glorious, divine One who is our own form, our own process, even our own body. We must align ourselves, resonate ourselves, tune ourselves with that, and be totally free of self-consciousness and the pain of self-contraction. This belief in ourselves and our independence is our disease. We must invest ourselves with understanding and become priests of love, of happiness, of freedom. Even our bodies must be submitted into this freedom, this glorious happiness, so that our human relations become possible, so that our organic life, our human cellular form, this absurdity, this limited life, such as it is, lives in the Great One and is animated by the Great One. Its only consciousness is the consciousness that is the Great One. There is no limitation. The Great One laughs and is free of birth and death, free of life, free to live, free to die, free to be happy all the time. This is always the moment of that one principle, and there is no disease. Therefore, in every moment, what is the practice? To understand our belief in the disease, the impossible 3-day thumb and finger problem that is projected day after day after day into more and more days of hopelessness. All our plans, all our asceticism, all our self-indulgence, all our strategies, all the foolishness we engage in our unhappiness must be purified by our happiness, by awakening up, by our understanding, by our freedom from self. This is the fundamental import of my teaching, and it makes you free to be human, free to be related to one another, free to love one another. The body-mind is a limitation. There is not the slightest doubt about that. But it is the great humour, the great joke, the great planlessness of the excessive God. There are many, many, many more planes beyond this. I can tell you because I have personal experience of them. Many, many more planes and worlds beyond this one and below this one. And they all inhere in the great one. And in all of these places, great beings and little beings tend to be suffering from belief in the imaginary disease of the dreaded Gom-boo. All of them are being doctored. They lie around in hospitals, receiving their daily medicines, chanting mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa, as if they had committed some horrible act just by being born, just by being alive, as if existence itself in any form is separation from God. There is no separation from God, not even in the slightest. It is impossible to be separated from God, absolutely impossible. We exist in eternal unity with God. It is totally impossible to be divorced from the Great One. It is an obscene suggestion that we could ever, even in a fraction of our being, be removed from the room of the great Lord. It is absolutely impossible. I am certain of this. I hope you will also understand yourselves and realize this. There is no disease to cure, therefore. The spiritual process is not a cure for disease. It is not a strategic approach toward the ultimate event of your happiness. The spiritual process is the magnification of well-being, the magnification of health, happiness, bliss, prior and eternal God communion. There is not the slightest suggestion in my intimation to you that you should become self-conscious and divorced from the blissful happiness of your union with the great God. Not even the slightest suggestion of it. To feel that you are separated from the divine being is not in the least required, except by the priests of the disease itself. There is no separation. Therefore, we should magnify the glory of God in our form and also beyond our own form. To be in God is the business of life. To understand the self, which is the belief in disease, and be free of it in every moment, and therefore be magnified and purified in the happiness of the glorious starry God. That is the teaching, that is the absolute wonderful truth into which I myself am born from eternity, being human and less than human, being unacceptable to the shouting crowd of this life, seeming to be an absolute fool, communicating to you the glorious happiness of our fundamental being. To do so requires no righteousness whatsoever, none. There is no righteousness. There is only this happiness, Go and make morality out of it. Go and make society, community, life and death out of it. That is the teaching. Therefore, what do your anti-sexualism and neurosis have to do with anything? They are your disease, your patient life, your waiting to be happy. How could one wait for the principle of existence itself? Only a fool would wait for it. Only the happy claim it. Only those who understand themselves magnify it through every moment of their existence, in every cell of their being. There is nothing wrong with the human body, with its genitals and hairs and talking and eyeballness and rotting fleshiness. Not even the slightest thing wrong with it. The whole thing is God. The whole thing. In itself, it is not happy, but in its attunement with the Great One, it is the circumstance of happiness. Live in this circumstance as happiness, and you transcend yourself. You enter into meditation. You are purified. You are transfigured. You are transformed. You will be translated into the glorious domain of the absolute God. This is guaranteed. This is the law. Nothing can distract you from it once you become happy. But you need not even become happy. You need only realize that you are happy, that the truth, if it is the truth, is the case, even now. God as God is God now. The condition of the condition with a capital C of our condition, small c, is our condition, big C, now. Everything else is a superimposition we lay upon it in our unhappiness, our neurosis, our narcissism. Understand this contraction and realize that you are happiness. Be consciousness, be the being, and realize that it is happiness and that everything that arises is nothing but a play upon it or a modification of it, a moment of it. Live a gloriously happy life all your life and go on from here to much greater worlds. Out there, I don't know if it is cloudy tonight or not, but out there are all kinds of worlds created by all kinds of fools, and they exist only within the visible spectrum, this tiny little fraction that our eyeballs can perceive. Do you have any conception of the infinite numbers of possible and impossible worlds that are extended beyond this visible spectrum? Even now, your relationship to me depends on your ability to be attuned to me in the visible domain, the vertical dimension of life, the force fields personal and beyond the personal and beyond the human, beyond the conditional realm into the force of God itself. You must tune into this force, just like an ordinary character turns on his TV set. Be attuned to the great force of God and enjoy the glory of light, the happiness, the effulgence, the radiance of living being. When you die, and the body will die, there is no doubt about it. What a laugh! How amusing, how wonderful, in fact, that we will not be contained in this ridiculousness forever. But even though you die, you will not go to any of the shiny spots in the sky if you are already happy. You will go beyond the visible realm into the field of forces and blissfulness that is now invisible to you, but that you feel through emotion, through your sympathetic attunement with energy. Thus, you will not be born there, nor even here. You will be born into none of this visibility. You will be born into what is not visibility or invisibility, and be magnified in your happiness. Even there, you will hear me telling you this same sermon. This world is just a way station, a place to be exaggerated, a place to magnify your happiness and not be dismayed, not be put into doubt, not become a patient in this world. This is no place to become a patient, because there is no cure for the disease you are thinking of, no cure whatsoever. Mark my words, the disease you have in mind has never been cured, because it is an illusion. It is a fake disease. God has not come into this world to cure this disease. The only reason God comes into this world through the adepts is to awaken you to the fact that you are not suffering from any disease at all. Life is not suffering. Life in itself is suffering. By itself, separated, it is suffering. But life is not in principle or in its real condition suffering. Life is inherence in the Great One. Life is happiness, capital H. Life in its real condition transcends its own limitations. Therefore, the notion of disease and unhappiness and the unsaved life of sinfulness and all the monotony of conventional religion has nothing whatsoever to do with the truth. God is the truth, and God is the principle of our existence. If we understand ourselves and are free of the image of our own self-contraction, then in our natural or native state, we are tuned to every dimension within the hierarchy of the cosmos and drawn into inherence in the great principle, the living, wonderful, and ordinary delightful God. This is meditation. Nothing less or other than that is meditation. Therefore, I call you to meditate, and all the other disciplines I suggest to you are based on this consideration. The personal and relational disciplines are intended only to create a circumstance of support in the chemical and biological nature of this body-mind for this submission, this alignment, this attunement, this happiness. They create a biochemical basis of God love. That is their only import. They are not hard disciples. They are circumstances of God love, of bliss, happiness, God communion, mystery, wonder, delight. All your life should be delight, a capital D. And when you are so delighted, then every moment of this being, all its farting and sexing and speaking and looking, will be the delight of God, because it is. None of this arises separate from God. The notion that it does is a false message. There is not now, nor has there ever been the slightest separation between any appearance and the Great One. All of it and all of its absurdities exist as God. All things in themselves are effects of the interests of independent living beings. There is no great path upon which we can depend, because countless beings, human beings, less than human beings, visible beings, invisible beings, big beings, little beings, beings in every plane, wherein the hierarchical planes of manifestation, all beings are thinking and feeling and acting and desiring and creating effects. The summation of all this chaotic desiring is the cosmos. God does not make the cosmos. God is the cosmos. God is the truth of it, the substance of it, the condition of it. God need not create one thing. God always stands in place as pure delight, as love, as self-radiant reality. All the effects, the changes, the appearance arise in God, but they are the result of your own interests. Understand your causality, your own effect, and be free of the disease suggested by these appearances. Realize that the living one is the condition of life, the condition of all forms, and be happy. This realization is sufficient to purify your sorry. So where were I? Understand your causality, your own effect, and be free of the disease suggested by these appearances. Realize that the living one is a condition of life, the condition of all forms, and be happy. This realization is sufficient to purify you. This message is the only gospel. Da. The imaginary disease, Alidar humorously calls the dreaded Gom-boo. Everyone is doing this self-contraction instead of living like an open hand. And it's that self-contraction that produces all of our so-called problems and diseases. And therefore we remain a patient all of our lives. But realize the open hand disposition and no longer be a patient. Stand on your own 2 feet. Stand alone, but not independent. Da.